Greetings, this is Sean, and today I'm going to be making this little tension saw for my Colonial Carpenter's shop. And this is actually was a pretty fun build. There'll be times out here where you think I'm about to cut myself. Please don't worry about that. I got smart. Anyway, I cut one of the pieces, one of the arms already, just to see how easy it was going to be to get a basic shape. And so now what I'm going to do is basically transfer that pattern onto this other piece of wood. That's 3/16 inch Basswood dowel. And the other piece that you saw there that's underneath my hand is a 1/8 inch dowel, and then I'm also using a piece of 1/16 inch dowel, which will come in later. And then that saw blade there is from my scroll saw. It's just a blade that got bent and dulled and stuff like that, so I'm using that for the blade for the saw. And I will also be using some thread later on too, which you'll see, to make the tensioning twine at the top. So anyway, this first one, I was debating on how I was going to shape this, so I just decided to use my chisels to try and chisel it out. And I probably should have sharpened my chisel first, but I didn't. And anyway, I'm using the sandpaper there kind of as a grip to help hold the wood so it doesn't slide. And you'll see me make a motion with my hands here in a minute, like, no, I didn't cut myself, obviously, but I cut it really close to where if I had cut any further deep into it, I would have ruined that piece and would have had to start over. So basically I'm just whittling away at this design here, and here I actually do make a mistake. When I did cut down onto it, I cut off the top of it too far, so I had to get another piece and start over anyway. So this one a little bit smoother. I was a little bit more gentle with it, and I used the sandpaper more for the chiseling away at the rounding off the top of it there, and that worked a lot better. Trying to make them almost identical in shape and size, as close as I can with what I've got. And there we go. There's my two pieces. One's a little bit thinner than the other, but that's okay. Now that piece there in the middle will be the brace that goes in between. And the idea of this saw is that brace there, along with the twine that's will be attached later, provide tension to hold the blade that's below that tight so that it doesn't bend when you're using it. Of course, the blade I'm just going to be gluing in place anyway, so it's not really this is obviously more for aesthetics than it is for functionality, but that's what they were originally designed for. And then you would loosen up the twine at the top, and it would separate at the bottom so that you could take the blade out, and the blades were grooved to fit into the holes properly, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm drilling some holes for that crossbar. I'm going to whittle down. I was going to whittle down with that, and I decided no, I'm just going to use my drill and turn it into a mini lathe, basically, and kind of just sand down the tip there until it fits into that hole. And I do that on both sides. So I just kind of I just decided to make the holes just a little bit bigger with that drill bit. And here I'm using that tester wood glue. This stuff is actually pretty good. It does a really good job with the with gluing. The only thing I didn't like is that it keeps coming out when it's not being pushed, and I think it's just because I push it while the cap is on it, and so I need to quit doing that. But anyway, I've got the crossbar on there, and yeah, there's a few tool marks from the drill that's on the sides of the crossbar there, but I'll sand those down later. Now here, what I'm going to be doing is using my my little X-Acto saw to cut the grooves down for that saw blade to fit into. And here's where I decide I'm not going to risk getting myself cut. So I tried a little bit, being very, very careful, and no, at no point was I about to get cut or whatnot. I just decided, well, I'm going to try it this way, I'm going to try it that way, and eventually I decided a different way to do it. That way I was just doing it there by laying it on its side. It was actually working, but it was going crooked. I didn't want it to go crooked, I should say. So, because I was afraid that by holding it like that, I wouldn't have very much control over how it was cutting. So, what I decided to do is what I'm doing right now is getting my vise out and hooking it up, and then I will take the saw, or the handles of the saw there, and put them into the vise, clamp them down, and cut them that way. That way I can see what I'm doing, I can hold it a little bit better, I can use both hands to hold the saw, and that worked a lot better. So I highly recommend one of these saws. I got this one at Lowe's for, I think I paid $20 for it, maybe $30 for it, something like that. It accomplishes what I need it to accomplish. So I was happy with the purchase. I was trying to use that actual saw blade to cut, but it was so dull. That's why I don't use it on my scroll saw anymore. And it's meant for, rougher cuts, and I didn't want it to be rough cut, so I ended up just using the other blade instead, and just being a little bit more aggressive with it. And there we go, got it fit in there. So now what I'm doing is I'm using the pen to mark where I need to cut that, and I've got a pair of tin snips, and they're dull. I need to get those sharpened. My scissors actually work better than those do on some things. But anyway, I got it cut, and now I'm just going to super glue them in place. I should say. And now I'm just going to finish it up, do some sanding on it. Now I'm taking this string, and basically I'm just tying a loop around the two handles there underneath the notches that I created, and I put a little dab of super glue on the end here, you'll see, just to hold it in place and tie a knot. Then what I'll do is I will take a piece of the 1/16 inch dowel, which is that there, and make it just long enough to be able to go through there, and then twisting it pulls it tight, and then across the crossbar. And I tried it on a piece of plywood, and that didn't cut, but it cut on this softer basswood dowel, and so it actually does cut. So I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, that is my tension saw, and if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I always read all of your comments and respond to them all, so please feel free to do that. And anyway, have a better day, as I always say.